I am Feel It.
And I am Fix It. And we talk about life.
And stuff and things.
With the occasional rant.
Which you will have no problem doing.
Hello. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, good night. Whatever it is, I hope you're having a good one.
Absolutely.
So how you doing?
I'm tired, which is funny because I just wake up a lot.
Yeah.
It's just a weird...
I could sleep.
I know, right? Is it just where we are? I don't know.
It's been a week.
It's been a week. So...
It certainly has.
And we're on 19 or 20. I think I'd know by now.
20, I want
We're
to
20?
say. Yes, 20.
Okay, 20. All right.
Yeah.
Okay. And as we're recording, of course, I mean, there are windows open at other places, so you may hear the neighbors mowing and taking advantage of this gorgeous, comfortable August day.
Yeah, which is weird.
We don't get many like this on a weekend, especially.
Yeah.
So I will enjoy it. I don't know. I'd like to take a walk, a nice long walk.
Okay.
My week did not allow for that, as I'd hoped. That's okay. That's okay.
Yeah, it's all good. It's all good.
We also discussed the fact that I have yet to kayak as I'd wanted to, and that's all right too. It's planning, right? Because I don't know. Unless it's just disgustingly hot, the water's not comfortable.
Yeah.
And there's some variables there that I'm processing through on how to manage that physically. But it cannot be cold water. There's no way.
So you want to kayak indoors?
Yeah, but your definition's a little different than mine. Anyway, another one of those summer goals that I'm not sure about this year, but it's logistics for next year. And then I've had so many people say, "Oh, you should try to paddleboard." I don't know, either one. Either one.
Standing on a kayak using an oar instead of sitting on a kayak and using it. I sit down, lower center of gravity.
I know you have your own concerns.
The margin of error is much larger in a kayak than a paddleboard. Just saying.
We'll work up to it. It's something I just had to be ready. Maybe this year was the ready, and then maybe then there's next year.
Yeah, well, there's still so much stuff going on. So
this summer's silliness. It's almost done. And when we say, it's funny how we in Michigan, it's like they and I don't know, it's not just Michigan, but universally here. Excuse me. Memorial Day to Labor Day. That's summer, right? School's out and you go on vacations and the weather's usually good and that kind of stuff, right? That's the norm. So I say we're running out of summer. School will be back in the next few weeks in many places, and everything just changes. Literal season with weather and tourism and busyness and all the stuff. So it's just been a weird summer for us specifically.
Yes. Well, life, it's weird.
Life is weird.
How that old saying go, if you want to make God laugh, just tell him your plans.
Oh, there's something to that. So I picked this particular topic. And it's not necessarily a planned thing, and I didn't even say it to you. I just said, I know what I'll talk about.
Sure.
And I think you already knew what I would end up talking about, but then I got some angles. All
right. Okay. Okay.
So it's been no secret as I've talked about things I have been through with my health. And it's been a crazy few years managing some of those things, to say the least.
A few years, yeah.
the totality has been 12. We're coming on 12, right? Let's see. December 2000 and I got to think 11. So.
See, I count the endometriosis years.
Oh, well, fair enough.
So that goes back to before 2000s.
And I just had my own. Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, it was before 2003. Polycystic ovarian diagnosis wasn't long after we were married.
Yep.
And then the endometriosis
So
that was the real fun one.
Yes. That sucked.
As it led to the fertility issues.
Yep. It was not a good time. Yep.
So, okay.
Yeah, so
I got you. So you're looking at the totality of our marriage.
Basically.
And I'm saying, even if I was to condense, because with all that stuff, because there was a lot of stuff through those time periods.
Yes. Yes, there was.
You cannot deny that the last couple of years have been the most ridiculous.
Oh, I am not going to even... Yeah, you're right. I am fully on board with that statement.
I mean, let's just say 2019. It really just reached new levels and kept going. But this time, this particular topic, this one isn't entirely about me in that way. Though it's been a very interesting week of how you have some memories and some feelings.
Yes.
And all the knowledge is just there because of those God-given opportunities that you have to take the knowledge and learn it and do something with it. And you just never know how that's going to come out in life. Well, this week.
Yes.
That came out in a few different ways.
Yes, it did.
And then we've talked about things that will all tie in, and I will get there. So, I have my ringer on at night. You work nights. You know that, like, I have my ringer on at night. It's usually lower. Usually.
Yes.
Very often right next to my head because I just need to be able to hear it. I always had that in my mind. If anything were to happen to you, I need to hear my phone. And I will contact you if I wake up in the night and I can't go back to sleep, and then you'll know I'm awake, and once in a while we'll text back and forth for a bit, but not too often.
Not too often. I don't always... Yeah, I'm at work. I don't always see that I got a message. You know, that's... like, I'm working. I'm often listening to my phone, but I don't always have it on me. Yeah.
So, having a weird earlier in the week, just not feeling well, coming back around, just busyness and how we don't prioritize ourselves. That'll happen. Hadn't been sleeping well, things like that. And then Wednesday night, I chose to stay up late and, binge a show with our youngest, which I very rarely do.
Yeah.
But I was up till almost midnight and then had a hard time going to sleep, but I went to sleep. About 3:30 in the morning, my phone went off. And sometimes when it goes off with, like, I think I'm dreaming and I don't process it. And it's normally junk anyway if it goes off. But it was your text tone.
Mm-hmm.
So that was different, first of all, because you don't usually text me without me texting you first.
Correct.
It took me a second to...
Yeah, I assume you're sleeping and I don't want to disturb you.
It took me a second to realize that was real. Okay. And it was a text that you were coming home.
Yeah.
And if it didn't get better, I don't remember what it said, but it was super vague. If it wasn't better, you would need to go to the ER.
Yeah, and it was text to type, and I didn't proofread, so it actually goofed it up. But
well, that'll wake you up.
Yeah, one would think.
But I had enough about me to know that if you had something happen at work, which, let's be clear, you hear on the local news all the time about accidents and things of people dying in your line of work.
Yes. It's not like super frequent. I mean, there's like a dozen or so a year in my industry. But
major injury or death.
Yes. Injuries happen frequently. Major injuries occasionally. I've been lucky enough to be able to avoid all of those at any place I've worked for the most part. There have been a few.
I mean, you worked at one point years ago with a woman that ended up getting like scalped. Her hair got caught in a machine.
Yes.
So that stuff happens.
It does happen. I worked with a guy that lost a finger. Actually, I worked
There
with
were more than one guy that's lost a finger.
I've worked with a couple of people that lost a finger. One while I was working there. So yeah, I mean, accidents happen. Moments of carelessness. There's potential for disaster. I teach new guys. I might officially be teaching apprentices here in the foreseeable future, which is weird. But I always tell them my number one job is to teach you and to make sure that you understand that absolutely everything you interact with will kill you if you give it the chance. And your job is to never give it the chance.
Well, between electricity and large machines and moving parts. Yeah, okay.
It's like
I'll give you
drinking
that.
water, okay? You can be drinking water, and if you give it the chance, you can choke and die. You
Wow.
aspirate the water, you die. Everything,
So-
literally everything in your life is trying to kill you. If
Wow.
you give it a chance. It might be a really weird chance,
That's some perspective.
but everything is trying to kill you. My job is to make sure that you understand all of the ways in which it can harm you and teach you how to mitigate or eliminate it.
Thank you for that.
Yes. So
now I'm going to
yes,
go back to the
no,
text
Yeah.
where I had it about me to know if something had happened at work, you'd be going to the ER.
Yes.
So I had to reread it, and okay, there's something else.
Mhm.
So then I called you immediately. There wasn't much conversation, and there wasn't any talking you down from you driving yourself home, even though it's roughly a 20-minute trip, right?
Yeah, give or
15 to
take.
20 minutes.
15 to 20, yep.
Okay.
I did get. It was like we drove. Well, I should say I drove by the ER we went to,
Yes.
and as I'm driving by, I'm looking at it, going, "I should pull off. I should take this exit,"
And you should have, and I could have met you there.
and that's okay. It was.
We're very fortunate to have. It's a very decent route. You know, it's a straight shot. It's not all
Yes.
chaos.
No.
It might be freeway, but it's not
Well,
chaos.
and the thing is, you don't need you avoid construction areas by using the highway.
We're very near
Yeah.
the freeway.
Yes,
So let's
very.
condense that. You're home. I say, and by then you were not even arguing. I'm going to the ER.
Mhm.
Like it wasn't even a discussion.
No,
Which you don't go to the doctor.
nope.
You go because you have to for physicals by like every 2 years for work.
Yes.
Like because you have to.
Well,
Um,
I do it so I can get a discount on the health insurance.
yeah, because you have to.
Yeah.
And then it's been several years since you were pursuing your own allergy
Yeah,
treatments. I mean, you've gone through your own stuff. You had a sinus surgery many years ago. Like you have things.
Oh, my allergies are massively better than they were for the most. My food allergies are worse, but my environmental allergies are way better than they were.
It's not you were
so-
like
so-
anti-medicine.
No, not
you
at all.
just
I just
don't jump there.
no. I have been very blessed over the years. It's like most things. Like I've talked about with you. It's like I've had a lot of injuries over the years, but it's like okay, they're gonna splint it. I can splint it. You know, it's not separate. It's not an open fracture. It's not a compound fracture. It's just broken. I can splint it. I can, that's done. Sprains, things like that. A lot of injuries, it's like I know how they're going to handle it. I'm trained in this stuff. It's like I'm just going to handle it. There's no point in me going in. I just got to be nice to it,
So as I'm asking you questions and things, because I am educated enough to be dangerous, and you
Yes.
say lower abdomen and that type of thing, and it's just narrowing it down, and you weren't talking a whole lot because you were in a hell of a lot of pain.
Yeah, I could
But-
talk or drive. I couldn't do both.
Even when you got home and I was still speaking to you and I was the one driving you to the ER,
Mhm.
it was alarming to see you that way. And you knew that.
Yes.
Ridiculous blood pressures. I think, what was it, 188 over 101?
Yeah,
Something,
183.
183 over 101.
Something like that, yeah.
Pretty impressive.
Well, and I was, and like, as I said, I don't think my blood pressure was actually that high necessarily. It was,
Oh, it spiked.
it spiked,
Yeah,
but
it
I
spiked
was
several times. I was
in
sitting
a
right there.
full-blown, full-body tensed. It's like I was, okay, the actual pain scale, basically 10, you are just a writhing, screaming ball of pain. I refuse to go there.
Yeah, see, that's not how I look at that, but I got you. I know the scale is subjective.
That's 10. I was, 9. I would say 9, and it came in waves. And I was in the middle of a wave when she started taking my blood pressure, and I'm like, and I was just full body locked up. Like,
well, you
no.
looked like you could have gone into the fetal position, and I think everybody saw that. We were very blessed. I mean, in this ER, there was nobody else there.
No, they were on the ball. It was
you were going right in. Because you were clearly not well, but there was also no one else there.
Yes, it was
somehow by the grace of God. It was just.
And apparently they're almost never busy from what the other doctors and ERs have been saying. So, which is amazing. It's a great facility. It was very quick, other than their CT scanner was down.
Yeah, that's fine. Ultrasound showed what it needed to.
Yeah. It was funny. I was like, hey, it's like, if you got tools, I'll take a look.
Yeah, they looked at you. They looked at you. But, so in the short of it, kidney stone, and you've never had one.
No.
And not only, because when you don't go halfway, yours is 1.4 centimeters.
Millimeters.
No,
1.4 centimeter. 14 millimeter. Yep.
Yeah, it gave.
Apparently, it's oblong, so it's like 10 by 14, so it's a football.
Yeah, it's like a weird, because they're not perfect. So great, awesome. We don't, and on the left, so we don't go halfway on that. Great, just outside of the kidney. So but it's staying and it's behaving because it's been a few days.
Yes, at the moment,
staying
it's
and behaving.
Itself. Yep.
Demerol's great and Toradol's great, and I've been on Toradol, so I can speak to that anti-inflammatory beauty.
That was it was wonderful,
and I got to see you high, which it's been so long.
Yeah.
I mean, I've seen you more high, but anyway, that was
you've seen
right after a surgery.
Yeah, I've had surgery
in 2008.
Yeah, it was a while ago,
so a long time ago.
Not a fan,
but alarming for what it was. That you were in that much pain.
Yes.
And though I had a high suspicion as you did, that it was probably kidney, that was still a first for you.
Yes.
And a first for me to experience something like that with you. After all these years and all the things, it's your turn. I got to be on the other side, which was interesting. That was interesting to process. You're not entirely processing, and you're not awake when it's 4 a.m. and they're asking questions and all the stuff, and you're just like, he was fine when he left.
Yes,
he was fine when he left me a few hours ago, and now he's not. And
yes.
So easy enough fix, and we say easy enough, right? Simple procedure, whatever cute little words they want to attach. There are things for it. You can't get it busted and torn apart because. Risk of not being able to pass chunks because it's large.
Well, and
they don't know the density.
Yeah, they don't know the density, which because the CT scanner was down, they couldn't get a density on it. So it's like, okay, we can try it, but there's a good chance if the density's too high, we'll have to go in and do the other procedure. So let's just start there.
Okay.
Awesome. Okay.
So
sure.
They have the procedure, they'll get it out, and it's not. Through a slit in the back.
Nope.
It's through another fun method, and you can all guess on that.
That's when that's bad. That's when it's like, okay, you've got this one big one on your left side, and you got a couple of smaller ones.
Three smallers on the right.
Yeah, something like that.
That's great. Still hanging out in the kidney, though.
Still hanging out in the kidney, and they're small. And it's like, oh, okay, all right. And they was like, okay, well, according to this, you do this, this, and this. It's like, okay, this right here could be your problem, or it could be a problem. We don't, it's like just from our standpoint, that's never necessary. Oh, okay.
What are you referring to?
The vitamin C.
Oh,
yeah. When you metabolize vitamin C, it becomes this and this. It's like, and as a byproduct, it creates this. I forget the exact form of calcium, and that's what these stones are made out of. And it's your kidney's job to separate that out of your blood when it's not necessary. And if the levels are too high, it collects. Oh,
well,
okay.
But next to that, she also said there's a high genetic propensity.
Well,
and
we have one person.
Your levels of vitamin C intake are not that high.
No,
I had been extraordinarily higher.
Yes.
In my therapeutic processes.
Yes.
much more consistently and ongoing.
Yes, and
So
your kidney tried to explode. So,
but the ER doctor,
just saying.
yeah, my kidney tried to kill me. But and then the ER doctor, of course, it being just very vague in general.
Yes, because
hey, I had one 7 years ago that was huge, and it was a total fluke. Haven't had one since.
Yep.
These things can just happen. You got them hanging out in your right. That's awesome. They can sit there for a minute.
Yep.
Worried about the left.
They're small enough to pass, which is like, okay, 5
Well, right now they're small enough to pass.
5 millimeter, awesome. Okay, 5 millimeters is small enough to pass. I don't know about you, but that's not small. That's not going to be a good time. But at the same time, okay, all right, sure.
Right now they're small enough.
Well,
And
as they were saying too, it's like most people. It's like kind of like with your kidney cyst issue. It's like most people have stones. Most people have cysts, and they never know they have them. They're small enough where they pass, and it's like a minor, pinprick of irritation. Like, okay, what was that? And they get on with their day. With the cysts, it's like most people have them, and they never know because they're just there. They're benign. They don't do anything. They might feel it. If it ruptures, it could be a problem. But other than that,
and then they're on the anterior.
Yeah, and they're on the exterior rather than the interior curvature, and which yours were on the interior, which is kind of a freak thing, and you had a bunch of them, which is a freak thing.
Yeah.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. A freak thing? What?
Yeah, I was like, that's kind of a freak thing. That doesn't happen. It's like the surgeon's like, I've never seen this before. It's like I do
up to approximately 20 colleagues around the nation.
It's like
I've never seen this before.
It's like,
oh gosh, wish you could get an award for that.
Awesome.
Yeah. Anyway, back to you.
Back to me. Yep.
Simple enough, right? ER Thursday morning.
Yes.
Urologist office Friday morning. Very efficient.
Yes.
And
extremely.
They try to take a week or two at the most to take care of something like this because your numbers with 2 kidneys are just a little worse than mine with 1, and that's alarming. That just means there is there's inflammation, there's dysfunction, there's things that they don't want to get worse. Clearly.
Well, there's that. It's partially clogged, which is affecting the numbers, and your 1 kidney has to work like that in order to keep up.
See, but you keep kind of deflecting there. You don't want me to listen. Have this moment where I look at that and go, wow, you got something wrong. Like first of all, this isn't normal for you, but I understand it. I actually understand it because I know what to look for in myself.
Your kidney number is excellent for someone with 2 kidneys. Mine is perfectly average for someone with 2 kidneys.
1. Somebody for one kidney.
You said it wrong. No, I didn't. Your numbers are they're outstanding for somebody with 2. It's like so your 1 kidney is doing its job beautifully.
I see what you're saying.
So I mean, so your
it took a few months to get there.
Oh yeah. I mean, your body had to cope. Now, admittedly, you no longer with 2 kidneys, you have a huge margin of error. They can both be at 50% capacity, and you're still fine with a regular setup. You don't have that option. My numbers are perfectly normal for somebody with 2 kidneys. It's like it's well within the normal range.
I can appreciate that you want to cling on to that. That's not entirely
with a kidney stone blocking crap up.
Yeah, there we go. That's what you need to kind of add there because
no, it's like but even in that moment,
the GFR of 62.
Yes, which is still within the normal range, even though the 1 kidney is really angry at me right now. Well.
And I would bet money that if we looked at past blood work, that it was better than that.
Yeah.
But anyway.
Yeah, sure. Well, one would expect.
My point. Yes, you might hear a dog ripping apart her stuffy.
Yeah.
My point is that you're going through some things.
Yeah.
That we do understand because of my things.
Yes, we have between your dad. Well, and I mentioned to the doctor when he was kind of dumbing it down. They're like, look, I aced human biology in college. I'm very well educated because of my wife's kidney issues and my father-in-law's kidneys issues. And then he started using technical terms, and I'm like, okay, cool, gotcha. I know exactly what you're talking about right there. Okay, yeah, that interior space right there. It's like, yeah, okay, yeah, that's where it's hanging out. Cool, good to know. Like, I understand this way better than the average Joe, and I shouldn't.
I shouldn't. But, God's funny like that, right? Because we do.
Yeah, and actually, I aced human bio not that long ago.
And
Actually,
I did very well myself. But then there's some things you have to live.
yes.
And because of what I've had to go through and the toll that your body takes to recover from something like that, when you do have to wait for the numbers to go up, they go up and down a little bit, then they'll stabilize eventually. I think I'm finally stable. And your numbers, and I know it's hard for you to hear. I could like see it in your face, like this idea that there's something wrong with you. I know there's a whole lot
No,
attached to
I
that.
know what you're talking about.
Uh-huh.
I've got something going on. We'll deal with that, and we'll
Yeah.
get back to normal.
Yeah. And you will get back to normal. You will get back to normal.
Yep, my normal.
Your propensity is much different than mine.
Yes.
Much different.
Yes.
If this were to happen to me, this would be a very different conversation.
Yeah, there would have been an emergency procedure for you.
Because I have one kidney.
Because you can't have a kidney.
Compromised.
Yeah,
I only have one.
Yeah, you can't. I'm just kind of curious if they're going to be, because they're aware of this stuff, if they're going to be the occasional monitoring going on. That's something we'll have to discuss with the urologist.
They'll probably kick you over to primary care. That's the typical.
Yeah, but
But you can ask.
Yeah,
You
I mean,
ask.
well, just that. It's like, okay,
I want to
specific,
know
we,
that these
we
numbers
know.
are going to get better.
Well, I mean, necessarily numbers. It's
Function. You know the function by the numbers.
I'm aware, and that's handled by. I'm talking very specifically these other stones hanging out.
Oh, she already said that was going to be another conversation.
Yes.
They're worried about the big left one right now.
Yeah.
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 Yeah. Now.
As am I. If that thing shifts into another bad position, then that was. I have drugs over there. They're in my lunchbox, actually.
Yeah, I don't think they're going to do the justice the Demerol and the Toradol did, but
No, but like I was able to drive, barely. Light was like, dude, if you can take the edge off, I'll be fine. Like, and they did more than take the edge off. That was impressive. But yeah, if you can take they used Demerol, but it was like we're going to give you
it was a very low dose.
We're going to give you a very low dose, and that'll take the edge off. It's like, dude, you take the edge off, I'll be a very happy man. Because we were kind of talking about it. I have had a lot of injuries over the years. A very vast array of injury types over the years. Yeah, many, many kinds of injuries. And there was no one thing I have been through. I mean, I've been on fire. I've had grease burns. I've had chemical burns. I have been cut, smushed, stabbed. I've been zapped with 480 volt power multiple times. I've had food poisoning. That's a miserable experience. The whole freaking lower abdomen just cramping and angry. Yeah, I've been punched, kicked, took a baseball bat to the chin, broke my skull, and I had to get anything that approximated what this felt like would be a combination of multiples simultaneously just to come close to what the hell that felt like. And I'm like, this is all kinds of different. Like I've known a lot of kinds of pain. I mean, my back hasn't been right in decades. And so it's like I'm familiar with high levels of discomfort. This was, holy crap, this is unbelievable how much this hurts.
Likening it to labor pains, as I've talked to women that have had
okay.
issues, those kidney issues,
sure.
Which
Sure.
I didn't have a stone.
Yeah.
I just had a kidney that stopped being able to contract
Yeah,
and expand.
Yeah, it was
on full expand.
It was being inflated by,
and it was
like okay,
different pain.
okay, like yeah, this was yeah. It was something else. There was a reason, like, this isn't right. This is like massively something's not right. This is something's ruptured, something's broken, and I was fine, and then 1 second later I was about to fall on the floor. It was just like immediate. No warning, no nothing. It was just there.
And thank you for that, because that leads me to some of the other pieces. And it's not even ER visits necessarily. For as often as we've ever had to go to them, I can think like a few times for our kids.
Broken bone. It's like, yeah, that's busted. ER time.
A couple broken bones. Yeah.
Yeah.
Our oldest would have been, she's broken both arms,
Yes.
not at different points in her childhood. And our youngest had cat scratch fever of all the strange things. That's its own little story.
Yeah,
We had
her pudgy little face just swelled up massively on that one side.
we had
different.
adopted some cats from a shelter, and they were, one of them was unwell, and so that became a whole thing to have
At least
to
one. Yeah.
get rid of all of them.
Yep.
But that's a whole nother thing. But that very, very few,
Mhm.
right? Not even stitches.
Nope.
Neither of our kids have ever had stitches.
Nope.
For myself, I can't think of anything beyond the stent. And I've had very few ER.
Mhm.
Like I broke my left arm as a young child.
Yeah. I got stabbed in the hand, and I needed stitches, and they initially didn't want to give me stitches until I put my finger in the hole, and I'm like, yeah, that should take a couple. And then the stitches fell out the next day, so I had to retie them. And I haven't bothered going to the ER since, because this is pointless.
Yeah, see, that's...
It's like, I do better work than
I
that.
don't have that. I had a track I wanted to go on, but
Sorry,
thank you,
yeah.
thank you for that. Yes, you're just talking about how much you don't do doctors, so you're proving my point on you.
I just ask them to not suck. If they're going to charge me that kind of money, don't suck.
I had stitches twice, 2 different events as a child. But anyway, again, very few, and then adult. There's one coming to my mind, and that was last fall, last September.
I think that's
when I
sounds
had
accurate.
my emergency stent placed
Yes.
in my kidney.
And that was specifically under instructions from your surgeon. If this happens, go to the ER and call me.
And I did.
And we did.
I did.
That ER, not fun.
That was a terrible ER experience. That was absolutely awful. But that being said, right, and there's an experience I'd had that I think will always and forever be with me, and it was proven to me this week. And not just because it was alarming that it was my husband. It was a context of it, and I'm comfortable to talk about it. Now that you've heard the story of what had happened with you, right?
Mhm.
Now that that's out there, you were fine. You went to work.
Yep.
You were fine.
Yes.
It was an average day. There was zero that was different about anything. And we talked about that. Like, did you feel it? Because, they asked you. They asked you in the ER, about symptoms and leading up to. You said nothing.
No, nothing.
You were not conscious at all of anything that was happening, if it was happening.
Right now, I am very aware of the fact that my kidneys exist.
And now you can, right? It's like now you feel, but now you literally feel that stone.
Well, I don't know if I necessarily feel the stone, but I am very aware of the placement of my kidneys in this very second. It's
that's
like, I know
that's
it's like it's one of those.
subconscious.
Well,
the ER doctor said you should feel that. Like, you're going to feel that it moved. You're going to feel pressure.
I am
You're
aware
going to feel
that
sore.
There's that like, I can't say it's sore. It's like there's like, I was telling our youngest, because she kind of asked, and it was like, okay, you ever get a bruise? And she's right now has a bruise on her knee that she doesn't know where she got it. It was like, ADHD kid. It happens. And like, well, when you're not touching it, you just kind of have that dull ache sitting out there that's low enough to where your brain can completely ignore that it exists, but it's always in the back of your mind that it's there. That's kind of what it's like right now. It's like there's just that little bit of, it's a little bit sore, but if I don't think about it, I don't know it's there.
It's a consciousness.
Yeah.
Which I went through that.
Yeah, sure.
He was a good ER doctor. Took his minute, explained some stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you're going to feel sore, you're going to feel pressure. This gets worse, that gets worse. Come back, because it's going to potentially cause some things now that
Sure.
it's moved.
Yep.
But yeah, there's the hyper consciousness, and then there's the reality of anatomy.
Mm-hmm.
And we like, you talked to you about like staying hydrated, and then the nurse practitioner at the urologist office did the same thing about being hydrated and not, basically psyching yourself out so you won't go to the bathroom.
Mm-hmm.
Because that's common, right? Like, because I even asked the question, like, okay, I'm in this ignorant moment. What does jarring mean? Like, stay away from jarring activities. What does that mean? Your whole job is jarring. And then, okay, does that mean he stays off the lawnmower? He doesn't use the weed whacker? Like, what does that mean? And then she's like, well, don't go on any roller coasters. Don't go on any trampolines.
Okay. Yep.
Oh, okay. You know, like, because you want to be realistic, right? But then you also don't want to become overly hyper-focused.
No.
And then freaked out about everything.
Yes.
I think I've had a little bit more practice over the years, and it was weird for me. That was last fall, having that stent. I had a stent for 3 months.
Mm-hmm.
It is painful. And you kind of, yeah. Yep, that's a whole nother story.
Yeah, that's something else entirely.
So I can appreciate hyperfocus, and it's not entirely a whole different thing because you're going to have a stent placed for a week or two after your procedure.
Yes.
So you then will understand a little differently because you are male anatomy.
Yes.
You're going to understand a little differently what that was like.
Yeah. Well, it's high enough up to where it's the same anatomy.
Even though we had the same issues. Yeah. Right? You're going to understand that. And even right now, I've never had a kidney stone, but I get kidney pain.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
So we're enough on the same page. Not even the same chapter. We're enough on the same page. We can get that, right?
Oh, okay. This is a little, it's kind of tangential to to the thing. However, I made myself some coffee, which I don't usually do, but it just sounded good this morning. Actually, I'm still finishing it, but I was just scrolling through Reels on Facebook because there was something interesting there, and one of them that popped up, it's like, they're listening. They're always listening. They're never not listening. Just be aware.
Frighteningly so. I don't think that was some coincidence. Not
at all, because that's never popped up. Nothing like that has ever popped up in my feed. It's like it was quite literally sandwiched between a G.I. Joe release and a Transformers release, and right in the middle was a guy talking about a study done by a urologist at MSU where somebody had passed a kidney stone from their kidney into their bladder. On the ride Magic Mountain. And he's like, okay, well, what's the mechanic behind that? Because it happened. And so he did a study, quite literally made a model of the system in the kidney with fake stones in it and set it up in the different seats on the roller coaster. And he found that you have a 66% chance of forcing a kidney stone out of your kidney through the ureters into the bladder if you sit at the back of the back of the cars instead of the front. So quite literally, it's like, okay, you've got some floating around in there and you need to go quicker, go ride on a roller coaster and it'll move them through. Like, it's like, okay, that's fascinating. And at the same time, that's really creepy that they're listening and sending me stuff like that.
They can hear you.
They can always hear you. And at the same time, it's like, well, I'm at a point where we don't want that to move like that.
No. No.
It's kind of sitting right there, just hanging out right now. I don't want that to move again. That was not a good time.
But yes, say they're listening.
Sorry. Yeah.
No, explain that. So I don't want to get too deep. I don't want to get too sad, but I want to be real. Now, I was debating if we should try to have a fun thing before I go a place. So we're gonna take a second. We are gonna put in our funnest, whatever that might be. What are we calling them?
Little faux ads.
Faux ad, not yet our sponsor. So we're gonna take a second and we're gonna insert one of those.
Here at Feel It and Fix It, there are many products and services we use or dream about in our daily lives. They may not be a sponsor, but we can always dream. One of those is Ghirardelli chocolate, because sometimes punching a bob just doesn't get the job done.
Okay, so this is where I'm going to be real for a minute. If I can explain, I'm going to reiterate, he was fine when he went to work, and a few hours later he wasn't. And then I saw my husband for the very first time as I'd never seen him. And we've been together 30 years at this point. I mean, in our life, in each other's lives. A long time. A long time.
31 years?
If you want to do the math that way, yeah. Yep. Yeah. Long time.
Yeah, I was
Been
19,
through a lot of
so,
things.
yeah.
Been through a lot of things. Okay?
Yes.
Now, if I can relay it, and I don't know the detail I've ever provided about my mother, but she passed away of pancreatic cancer April 5th, 2015. 9 days prior to that, or excuse me, 11 days prior to that, math. 11 days prior to that, she collapsed at work. She was at work, and she worked in the laundry department of a hospital. They had an ER attached, thankfully.
The same one that goofed up my stitches.
Yikes. There in the months leading up to that, I would say I definitively knew in December. It was Christmas. It was my visit home at the holidays that made it very telling. For as much as my mom had instances where she didn't feel well and said she'd been vomiting and things of that nature, and it was easy enough to pin it on stress because of my dad. My dad had spent most of October in the hospital and wasn't well, and just the drama and stuff happening within our family. It wasn't hard to say. And then she'd lost her own mother. My grandmother passed away Labor Day weekend. So grief does ugly things. It just was, there were so many other things that you could have pointed to.
And she had a history of ulcers, too.
She did. She had a history of stomach ulcers. So many other things that could have been pointed to. So in March, she was admitted. She was admitted to the hospital before I was told. And the only reason I was told 2 days after the collapse at work had happened, number one, she didn't want me to worry. I had my own things because ironically I was going through my own testing at the exact same time. It was March 11th that we both had gone to the doctor. I went and had a massive amount of testing done and scheduled, and my mother wasn't even touched to have had the palpable tumors felt in her abdomen, nor given a blood test. She was sent away with some samples. Is it Zantac? Was that?
Yeah,
something for stomach ulcers. And hey, do this for 30 days. And if you don't feel better, come back. So when she ended up in the ER, I found out after the fact, after she'd been admitted, and no one was being entirely honest, and she was frustrated about that, and she didn't have answers to give, but she knew I needed to know. That's when I was notified. And then I did what I did best at the time, and I took that trek up to see her and talk to some people, and did get some more answers that weren't pretty.
Mm-hmm.
But that, having started with an ER visit, there's a little bit of connotation there that it's always stuck in your head. And then next to, of course, my father, when he had his massive heart attack, I watched them fresh off the ambulance, keeping him alive using, and forgive me, I don't know what it's called, but that device that they just squeeze over the mouth.
Yep. Yeah.
Keeping him alive with that while they were getting hooked up to all the things. So there's a trauma kind of attached to that in my brain that I really wasn't as conscious of as I thought it might have been. And there's triggers. We've talked about triggers. There's events. There's the things that kind of flood back. But my mother probably being the most disturbing in that, because yes, the ER doctor was the most honest, sadly and unfortunately, that according to the ultrasounds that she'd had done, yeah, he was guessing cancer, some form of cancer, but he just couldn't definitively say.
No.
And it wasn't, I know that wasn't his job, and I know there's so much, the bureaucratic boundaries and all that crap.
Sure.
Like, you can't tell me he probably really didn't have some good guesses, But again, he wasn't an oncologist, right?
No.
So he couldn't say certain things, but
Sure.
thank God he at least said that. So she at least knew, okay, this is probably really serious. And then she was admitted, and then a couple more days go by, and she's still not getting answers. And we could have a whole nother episode about how that whole thing was a fiasco, garbage fiasco.
Yes.
Because, you know, she should have been able to get answers far more quickly.
Yes.
She collapses on a Wednesday. I'm up there on a Saturday. I'm talking to nurses. I'm talking to doctors. What is going on with my mother? With her permission, I was able to get information.
Mm-hmm.
And even then, some of the things that were said to me were absurd. And my cousin that was there with me at the time, who is an RN, it was such a dance. It was such a dance. No, it's like nobody wanted to say she's dying. Nobody wanted to be the one to say it, and they were still trying to look for how extensive it was and know how close she really was, even though the labs were horrendous and pretty telling.
Yes. Well, and I think part of it was they were all part of her primary care that had told her who at best didn't do his job.
That's putting
At
that super
best
mildly.
Didn't do his job.
And happened to go on vacation.
Yeah.
So he was on vacation that entire time.
Sure. That they couldn't say a lot of things without implicating the hospital system itself. It's like, yeah, this guy
there was a whole lot wrong.
Failed to do the very basics of his job. Didn't do anything that he should have done. And they can't say that. And so they tell you exactly how bad it is. That lets you know, it tells you how long it's been going on and how long that doctor hasn't been doing their job.
It was...
and quite literally, I think they wanted you to be so distracted and traumatized that you wouldn't think about going back on them. Like they were covering their butt at her expense. And at that point, they also probably had a pretty good idea. There's not a dang thing we can do for her, so we're not really doing it.
We're going to be careful what we even say here.
we're
waiting
not,
for oncology to take over, basically, is what that came down to. And in essence, even, and I'll give just a little detail of the absurdity. That day, I'm there on a Saturday. I'm literally watching... I don't know what he would have been called at the moment, a hospitalist, the floor doc, the whomever, whatever title you wanted to give him. He's feeling her abdomen, right? And I could see where he's feeling, and I could see that there was something there. And she was an overweight woman, and it was still that large. Like things were still that wrong. And then I'm listening to him say to her that they were going to, forgive me, the terminology in the moment, I don't have that like in my brain, but basically going to do like some more images and some more scans to take a look, to make sure that her gallbladder, it wasn't her gallbladder. And my mom is doped up at this point. I mean, I don't know how much they had her on of what, but I mean, just to try to keep her comfortable. She wasn't talking very well, but she did manage to say, I don't have one anymore. And then I chimed in and said, if she had that removed when I was a baby, like it's been gone a long time. Are you really think it's her gallbladder? How does it grow back? I mean, I was trying not to be mean and flippant, but like, let's be real here. At that point, I already knew her liver enzymes were completely out of whack. And there was some other blood work that was just completely wrong. And I was super ignorant in the moment. So I just knew something was very wrong. Sometimes ducts grow back. Sometimes they can cause problems. I mean, it was just a ridiculous statement. It was a ridiculous conversation. It had nothing to do with her gallbladder. She had pancreatic cancer that metastasized to her liver and her stomach. And according to the report, which I did eventually get, it was the terminology was basically that it was wrapped around like a vine. That's how they were kind of trying to describe it. And I had my cousin there to help me decipher some things, in the following days. But yeah, it was just absurd. That was an absurd conversation. Like nobody had the balls to just say, she's dying. We don't entirely know the source of the cancer because they couldn't without going in and doing a biopsy, which they did eventually do.
Mm-hmm.
But it was just dumb how many days she laid there. So want to back up, right? Mom, that was mom. That experience of seeing how poorly she was treated, how many times they had to scan her, how many things they were looking at before anybody came forward and just said, she's dying. And then at that point, she had 5 days left, which they said that she had a few months at best, but it ended up being a few days when it took over her blood as an organ and killed her.
Yeah, basically every time they ran another test,
it looked worse.
It was like, okay, with treatment, a year, and then if you like 6 months, a couple months, and it's like the end of this sentence. It just kept getting shorter. It's like it just hospice now because there's nothing we can do.
Like, it was just such a strange interaction, and I still to this day I will always have feelings about the way that was handled.
Yeah, and we haven't been back since.
No, I haven't, and I haven't needed to. That's Northern Michigan. But all that said, that's that experience that's kind of stuck in the brain. And then when I went through with my dad, I was a little bit more educated. It was a very different situation. There wasn't a whole lot of scans that needed to be done there to know my dad had some things.
No.
And he was already
very different things.
Well established in his things. So with you, now fast forward to you, I'm in an ER. I'm watching my husband in just immense pain. Was fine to absolutely not. And they take him back for CT doesn't work. So first it was X-ray, and then it became ultrasound. But we're just going to go ahead and do the so many. I don't know. They ended up doing more than what was indicated to me.
Yeah, they basically,
but
my entire lower abdomen.
Yeah, your entire lower abdomen was done.
Yep.
Because they couldn't do better images than that.
Yep.
And that's okay.
They were very thorough. Well, yeah. Well, when the CT scanner was down, so it's like we're going to get very thorough 3D imaging using ultrasound, and then they had me do an X-ray.
After
just after they did that, they did an X-ray for the renal specialist, because it's like, or the urologist, excuse me. It's like they're going to want an X-ray. Just it's like, okay, cool. Hey, you tell me what you need from me, and I'll do what I can to deliver. It's like, I want to make sure this is taken care of.
Well, I didn't think it would take long, right? Because it's like, we're going to get your left side. I thought, okay, well, that's not going to take long. So I used the restroom, went back to the room. I don't know how long.
It was a while.
I was in the room before I just, I got up, I walked around. I didn't have a brain to stare at my phone, and I was just like, what is taking so long? As I'm feeling this strange, like, trigger trauma coming at me, what is taking so long? And then there was a staff change, and I'm listening to them talk because there was nobody else there.
Nope.
So you're listening to staff talk to one another, which was fine. They're humans. Let them have conversation. Yeah. It wasn't inappropriate, but it was just, it was like, I'm sitting there and I could feel peace, which was strange. So it has to become intentional that you allow that, and that you don't fight that, because in the moment, and I have had many instances where I was alarmed, and there was a reason, like the spirit becomes alarmed, like it's preparing you,
Mm-hmm.
That's happened to me many times. This was different. I had a peace about me, but it was like that thing that just sat there, that memory, that the moments where it was like, okay, we're in an ER and this is general, and I know this is just like as diagnostic as it can be in this moment, but what is taking so long? What is wrong that this is taking longer? And all the things were flooding at me, right? After I used the restroom for the second time, which you always tease about my tiny bladder.
Yes.
It's not really what it is anymore, but
it's part of it.
It was a tiny bladder. I don't know. The urgency has changed. I don't know what to tell you.
If it's filling that fast, it's tiny.
I don't know. But in the middle of the night, right? It's not like I'd taken down a bunch of water. But I walked up to the area where they were standing, and I said, I mean no disrespect, but can I ask what is taking so long? And they'll just kind of stop for a minute and just kind of looked at me and, oh, well, it takes a little while to prep, and I'm sure it's no problem, no big deal. They're just kind of dancing and just like, and again, I'm like holding back a moment, like, okay. And I knew none of them would necessarily even have the answer because they weren't back in the room with you. So you got to check all the things immediately. Mm-hmm. I don't want to be a mega crazy wench in the middle of this hospital. I don't want to call you out for being weird right now because you probably don't have people ask you very often. Mm-hmm. And they probably don't do it politely. I am tired and I am freaked out. And then I think the female nurse had caught on pretty fast and had just said, would you like me to take you back there? I can take you back there. I said, well, is it far away? Because again, I'm trying to decide. This is a decent sized building. Like, why would this be taking forever?
The gal was just being very
and
thorough.
She took me back. Well, see, but there was a disconnect there. Because I was told they were doing your left side. Mm-hmm. She was doing your whole abdomen.
Yes, there was two.
Which would have made sense. And what I kind of told myself before I said something, like, I bet they're just being more thorough than what was relayed. But it's how it has to come together in your mind, mm-hmm. given my very poor experiences.
Sure.
Yes. Right? So you had a different testing even than I had, and I had a MRI, like that, and that was very thorough, right? Like,
yes,
yep. So in that moment, when she took me back there and said it, I think she might have taken me back there. I don't know if you probably don't remember when she opened the door. She knocked on the door, and then the wife is here. She's just really worried. I kind of wanted to say something. But nope, had to rein it back in, had to bring it back in. Like, you're just kind of making it sound like I'm this like typical like worrywart wife. That's not entirely what was happening in the moment, but she would have no way of knowing that.
Yeah.
She had no way of knowing what was dancing through my head.
No.
In that moment.
No. And that's you were concerned. Like, okay, that's fair.
Fair. That's a fair general way to describe that.
Yes. But yeah, there's absolutely no way they know your history
no way they could have known any of that.
Yeah, no context.
None of it at all. Or even maybe considered in the moment, because I don't think she wasn't there when you had gone back to begin with. They'd had their little shift change. So that I was told the left side, and then you ended up having the left and the right and your abdomen. Mm-hmm. Like they were specific on the kidneys, but then they did like everything else.
Yeah, they did a comparative imaging, so they'd have, it's like, what's normal for this dude? Yeah.
So it was just a moment where if you can say this strangely, you have to control some of the trigger reaction, right?
Yeah.
You can acknowledge that you're having it. You can be aware, you can take it for what it is, right? Like that's a healthy thing, mm-hmm. right? My memories were coming back to me and they were allowing me to actually consider that you were just having more done than the left, right? Because not only had I been through it, but I've known what had happened with my parents very intimately because I was their advocate.
Yes.
So just able to like put it together fast enough that it didn't become a thing. Mm-hmm. But I didn't look like the mega crazy wench wife.
Well, and therein right there, there's a high level of maturity there. Like we talked about triggers before. It's like
it didn't mean I didn't want to throat punch her.
Oh no, but because
I'm like, really? Did you have to say that? Yeah, I get that. I don't know. Even her tone was just
sure.
Again, I think it was innocent. It was innocent.
It was innocent. It's like you were sensitive in that moment, and I was like, oh no. I'm just like, yeah, that makes perfect sense to me. It's fine. Come on, yeah. And the tech was just like, yeah, no, we're good. You do what you got to do. I'm like, okay, all right. And then she went. It's like, yeah, they specifically wanted this, and it's like you've actually got two orders. It's like one for a full, and then one for just the one side. I'm like, oh, okay. All right, you just tell me what you need to do. I'm here for you. What do you need? It's like, I'm good. I am way better than I was when I got here, so you can do whatever you got to do. So we can deal with this so it doesn't come back.
Were there all kinds of things dancing through my head?
Oh, I have no doubt.
I know somewhere not even so deep down, that it actually wasn't significant and serious in cancer like my mother. I did actually know that. I did have a piece in that. Did I have all the things flashing through my head that if you needed something done that was significant, we are hosed? And how was that going to look? And how are we going to get through? Because by the grace of God, the grace of God, we're getting through right now. When God leads you to it, he gets you through it. You hear that, and you're like, but when you got to live it, that's different.
Yeah,
we've had to live it so many times in so many ways. I'd like to think I'm getting better about how I'm actually living it.
Well, and there's that one book that you had. It was God's Never Let Me Down, but he sure scared the crap out of me a few times.
Yes.
Or scared the death out of me a few times.
I think I took that to the office. Yeah. Yep. Yes. Yep. Yes. So is it something that you have to deal with? Yeah, you can't just leave that. That's silly.
No.
You won't. I'm not doing that. We're not doing that.
I don't need a repeat of that. At all in any way, shape, or form.
There's a level of, yes, you say maturity in that. Sure, I'll give myself that credit. Then there's, on the spiritual side of it, you should take that moment. You take that moment to pray. You take that moment to stop and just calm, right? Like listen and calm and acknowledge. And it was okay to be concerned and anxious and wherever else I was. I actually wasn't a lot of those things about you. And that was what was strange in the minute. It was hard to see you that way. It was hard on our daughters to see you that way. And they admitted that after the fact when we got home. Even our youngest to say, well, with mom, it's just like, like, now what? Like, like,
well, I'm kind of used to that, but Dad, that's weird.
Like, Dad was scary. She used the word scary. That was scary. But to be fair, you couldn't stand upright. You couldn't speak. You were having a hard time, them hugging you or you hugging them. That it was weird to them and hard and scary and
yes,
and not mom.
Yeah, this is true. This is very much
and they
true.
are young, and for as much as they've been through, there's still going to be firsts.
Yes,
that was their first for you.
Yes,
that you have never portrayed anything even close to that.
No,
not when they would nail you in the testicles playing.
Nope.
Not when you got stung several times by ground hornets. Like they have never seen that.
No, they literally saw me get between them and the hornets and rush them into the house and then swatting them off my legs when we got in the house, making sure they were dead so they wouldn't get hit. Yeah. Which sucked. That was not a good time. That hurts. but it's like, yeah, it's like, no. And that was one of the reasons why I was glad, I knew they were going to still be up because they were freaked out. And it's like, I took a minute just to, it's like, okay, everything's good. Everything's good. It's like, come here. It's like, we're good. It's all good. It's like, that was not fun, but we're going to be all right. Everything's cool. It's one of those parts of being a parent. It's like you want to protect them, but you can't shield them because they end up naive and vulnerable. But at the same time, you don't want them to go through anything more than they have to, and there is going to be that point in life where it's not going to be okay. Yours was, you with your parents, it was very traumatic how it was not going to be okay.
Yes, and they do remember my father, many aspects of my father.
And you don't know when it's going to be that it's not going to be okay. It's coming. It's coming for everybody. It's an unavoidable fact of life that every love story ends in tragedy. That's why movies end at the wedding.
Happy.
But if you follow that story, it always ends up like The Notebook.
Yikes. Oh, no. Stop. Okay, well, I could hope that we go, within minutes of each other. That would be great.
Sure.
Peacefully.
But
sleeping.
Yeah, spend years spending all of our time reminding each other who we are. That'd suck.
Fair. But yeah, I didn't say I wanted that part.
At some point, it's like, yeah, I want you to be prepared because someday I'm not going to be there. today's not that day.
Today's not that day.
Today is not that day. And I don't know, have I talked about that in one of these before?
You have not, I don't think.
If
go
not,
ahead. Go ahead, and then we're going to wrap up.
I'm going to add, just because I can. Many, many, many years ago, I saw something that stuck with me. And it was like one day your dad picked you up for the last time and neither one of you knew it. And that kind of struck me. It's like, I mean, yeah. Admit my dad's never picked me up that I'm aware of.
I could see that.
And my mom's little, so she hasn't picked me up since I was tiny. I think the last time my mom picked me up was when I burned my leg in the 1st grade. Anyway, that's another thing entirely. So I make a point of once in a while, I'll just walk up to the girls and I'll pick them up. And they're both adults. They're both adult-sized. Okay, the youngest, not so much. she's petite. She's not short, but she's petite. And I pick them up and she's like, oh, stop it. And it's like, nope, today is not that day. Like, today is not that day. Today is not the day that is the last time your dad picked you up. And it's me telling him, it's like, okay, I'm picking you up. I'm holding you right now. And then there's another one coming. Because today is not that day.
Today's not that day.
And, like, okay, it's a kidney stone. If I ignored it and something bad happened, which there was no ignoring that. I'm sorry. A person can get used to any pain eventually.
I think I've successfully done that in many ways, but
yes. And
I don't know if I could have ever gotten used to the kidney pain.
If it's constant, you can learn to ignore it. And having back issues, having overcome some serious joint issues in my knees and whatnot they just moving hurt. For years, just moving hurt. And I still ran, and I still did PT tests, and I still do, but it was always there. It was never not there. And as long as it was constant, you can eventually learn to tune it out. It's when it's not constant. That wave, that pulsating, it's like you can't. It's like you can't, it's like, well, like on the mixer board, I can tune out certain frequencies. It doesn't mean it's not there. It just means it's adjusted so you don't notice it. It's like it's always there, and it's always there. Something's always weird, but you can become accustomed to its existence. It's like a stink, the stink in a cat person's house. It's like if it's not your house, you know that smell, but if you live there, well, I don't know what you're talking about.
Nose blind.
You become nose blind.
And I'm going Dory. You're hearing Dory. You're hearing our pet every once in a while. We left the office door open, and she can hear things.
It's just us in the house.
Outside, yeah, it's just us. So anyway, but yes, you were not going to ignore that, and I wasn't going to let you ignore that.
There was no ignoring that. No.
But
well, and as much as I don't do doctors, I am very aware of myself. Like, I know every noise, creak, groan, it's like I am acutely aware of, okay, that's different. Why is that different? And I find a reason. It's like, okay, we need to explain, what the heck is this? It's like, is that a bump? What's going on here? Because it's like, I don't need a doctor to tell me something's wrong. You usually know when something's wrong. That kidney stone, without imaging, you don't know they exist. And I've had no injuries or anything that required imaging that would ever bring those to the forefront till they moved. And, oh, hey, there's something here. I am very acutely aware of the fact that there's something not right. And I hope to never have to go through that again, because that was not a good time.
Yes, I agree. That was probably a little more special because of the size and all that. But
yes.
So
anyway, yeah.
I wanted to relay that. I know we hadn't really discussed that even. I know this is the first time you heard some of that because I didn't really talk about it. It's only been a few days.
Yes.
But It was.
But I know you. And when you came through that door, I kind of knew. It's like you were concerned. And there's a lot of reasons. You don't have, your track record for others in the ER isn't good. So,
what I expected to take a few minutes was
Sure.
much longer.
I had no idea how long it was going to take. I was just like, I'm just here along for the ride. You tell me what you need. But yeah, no, I
was easily 20 to 30 minutes.
there was no question in my mind as to why you were in there. It's like, yeah, neither one of us are going to be helpful in this. It's like, but at the same time, it's like, no. It's like, yeah, you're fine. I don't, you do what you need to do. It's like, it's like, I don't need you to have a moment. There's enough going on here. You don't need to be dealing with that too. Come on in,
And I know I could have. I know I even could have.
Sure.
I just didn't think it was going to take that long.
Yeah.
So.
It always takes longer than you expect.
Oh, well, there's prep and it
No.
was
Yeah,
just
it's like, bring
you guys aren't going to try to explain this.
Pull
away
your
to
shirt
me.
up.
Can you just tell me where he is? But yes.
Yeah, the prep was pull your shirt up and lay here on your side. I'm going to put this goop on you, and that was prep. That was it. She started imaging like a minute in. Yeah, it was like there was no prep.
I wanted to discuss that because it kind of ties into some of the things that we've recently covered, and now having gone through this, something for the first time. There's some things that I had to face and deal with, and realize that forever and always, I think there are just some there's some events that are never going to leave me.
No.
And
no
matter what the circumstances is, it's still
not at all. And there's a reason for all that stuff. There's a reason why that stuff sticks. It's like, yeah, I never want to go through that. I am never going to get blindsided like that. I am never going to be as naive as I was the first time. It's like I know more, and
we'll always get blindsided.
And well, to a point.
To a point.
If you're in the ER, you got blindsided. That's kind of the definition of an ER visit. You got blindsided by something. But yeah. Anyway, you know how that goes.
We shared this week.
Oh,
right. With all the things, there's the good things in growing a practice and moving forward with life and transition. Okay, great. And then something else comes along out of left field when you least want it.
And to really make it out of left field, it came from me.
It came from you.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah, that was not expected.
Nope.
I know, I am the troublemaker, but yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
I said a while ago, it's like at some point it's going to be my turn, and it's not going to be fun for anybody.
And I'm going to go be seeing a vascular doctor. I'm waiting a few months on that. I'm going to do that this week to see if I really do have a situation going on again with my right leg. But we'll see, right? And all the stuff that we have to deal with. Why not?
Yeah.
Why not? Let's just...
There's a lot of things that come with life, and there's a lot of things that aren't fun that come along with it. But, hey, here we are. Everybody actually is pretty good, and we hope to keep it that way.
I think, all things considered, we are okay. We are.
Yes.
We have been worse.
Yeah, there's that little ghost in the background is waiting to poke its head up. It's like, hey, I'm still here. It's like, yeah, I'm getting you removed. So, yeah, you caused me that kind of grief. I will destroy you. That's all I'm saying.
You got to know when to evict them.
Dang,
okay,
Skippy.
So we covered that for today, where we are.
Yes.
Okay, so
I'm Fix It.
I'm Feel It.
We hope you join us in the future.
Until next week.
You have a great one.